speaking of the indie scene, Jerry, and this is kind of, segueing into some, not breaking news, but some big news that happened over the weekend when it comes to indie wrestling and WWE. Rip Rogers posted a long text. I'm not going to read it all. I know people listening probably know what's going on. That a text that a indie wrestler sent to Rip Rogers, and he tweeted it out, and then Randy Orton retweeted it, and was basically talking down to the state of indie wrestling today, where there's a lot of no selling, there's a lot of super kicks, there's a lot of high risk dives that probably shouldn't be happening every single match on an indie show.
Well, tell me what do you have the tweet there in front of you? I mean, what? I didn't actually personally see it, so let me. And I follow Rip Rogers, so I don't know why I didn't see it. Tell me what it said.
Yeah, it was a tweet from 3 days ago, and this is basically what it says: every indie match now, and he goes, there's a handshake, a drawn out move exchange, this is awesome chant, strike exchange, dive, no sell indie strong style, dive, more strikes, no sells, dive, flippy floppy sequence, dive, hit everyone with each other's finisher, then Humpty Dumpty, we all fall down. More fight, fight forever chant, rinse and repeat until every move is useless and means nothing. Another dive, take unsafe shot that looks like...
Hey, you can't say that. We're in the restaurant. You can't say that.
And moves like hell, that hurts like hell. And then roll up finish, handshake and hug after match, everyone's hands raised, all these guys chant from the crowd. And then they go home and type on social media thanking your opponents and company for the match and telling others they should book these guys. ... Dive. So
wait, but that was a tweet?
He put it in a text and took a picture of the text, and then he posted the photo.
It's got to be more than 140 characters.
Now,
Jerry, how did Randy Orton get involved?
Okay, so that was the text from another indie wrestler that sent it to Rip Rogers, and then Rip Rogers, said this is a text that was sent to me from a young man, on the state of indie wrestling. So this went out, and there was a lot of reaction. This was 3 days ago about Rip Rogers' tweet, and there were some people who agree with it, and some people, obviously people who disagree with it. Now Randy Orton gets involved because he retweeted this tweet, and he put ... I think it was headlock. And he put ... dive, stating like, okay, another dive. So
first you start with a headlock,
right,
then you do a dive, and then what else?
So he was basically agreeing with it. Now Randy Orton has X million followers. He's relevant today, obviously, 13-time champion. So he's basically ripping on indie wrestling. So he issues an apology. And I put apology in quotation marks because it's not really an apology. He goes, sorry to the indie marks, indie guys, and old-timers who do dives, who took offense. Just having a good time over a few drinks in Denmark, closing the SmackDown Live tour, while beating Raw and making over $5 million in the last 11 shows. Now I know that to some, that doesn't equate to standing room only crowd of 150 people paying $8 at an armory somewhere, but in the big boy world, that's called putting asses in seats. So enjoy your flips, dives, and 20 super kicks per match. To each their own. I will go, quote unquote, dive back into my 13th title run and get ready to, quote unquote, flip when my bank statement comes this month. ... Headlock. So I know, obviously, Jerry, you still make the indie rounds. You see these indie matches go on. You're still, you still are involved in indie wrestling, and you're a guy that is established, the king of Memphis wrestling, WWE. You've been in a WrestleMania match. You've called matches, great matches throughout the years. You've seen the great. You wrestle the greats. When you hear these two tweets from Randy Orton and Rip Rogers, what is your initial reaction?
Oh well, I mean, that's both of those tweets are their opinions, and everybody has the right to their own opinion. As everybody knows, I'm a friend and a big fan of Randy Orton and his work, and I know Rip Rogers real well. I mean, I remember back in the day when Rip Rogers was part of the company that was with the Randy Savage and his brother Leaping Lanny Poffo and Angelo Poffo, and Rip Rogers was one of their main guys as well when they were working against us, here in the old Tennessee territory. And so Rip Rogers has he's been involved in, I guess, I don't even know if indie. I don't even know how the term indie wrestling came about. I guess independent shows that are not part of the mainstream, which of course in back in the day was either WCW or WWE, and now it's WWE. So anything other than that gets the term indie wrestling tacked onto it. When we have shows, we still have shows down here in Memphis. We're fixing to start a series of shows down on Beale Street at Handy Park during the summer. But people will refer to it as indie wrestling, but it's going to be Memphis wrestling. And so I think that what Rip Rogers is talking about, he has a valid point, and Randy, of course, has a valid point. When you look at what the independent scene has evolved into, it is, and of course, it's primarily a bunch of guys who are, trying to get their foot in the door. They want to make it to the big time. They want to make it to the WWE. They want to be where Randy Orton is, working 11 shows that do $5 million worth of gross houses and become a millionaire. Everybody that's on an independent show, that's their goal. That's what they're thriving to do. So when you look at these independent shows, the way they're put together is you get a promoter that's going to go out and find a bunch of wrestlers and put on a show. Now, these young guys that are striving to get to the WWE someday, they don't have a name. They're trying to make themselves a name. So if you just throw their names up there on the independent scene, it's not going to attract any attention. Nobody's going to pay money to come to see these guys. So then the promoter will then seek out a couple of veterans, a couple of guys who that are still out there, don't mind or enjoy doing the independent shows, like myself. Hey, I do it for two reasons. I do it because I still love to wrestle, and it's one of those things where when you get close to the end of your career, I mean, it's no use denying it. You feel like you don't want to face that fact. So as long as you're still physically able to go out and do something, I believe that an athlete or a person that's involved in this kind of business is going to still go out there and do that. That's why I still do it. I love to perform in the ring. I also find it very difficult to turn down the money. I mean, if a promoter calls me up and says, "Hey, King, have you got?" I mean, I just got. Well, right, you heard while you and I were talking. I just was on the phone with another promoter that called, and when somebody offers you $3,500 to come and do a 15-minute match in somewhere, and then you're going to also meet fans and sell pictures and autographs and that sort of thing, and maybe pick up $4,000 to $5,000 in one day, it's hard to say no to that. I mean, especially when it's doing something that you've done for your whole life. It's something that you enjoy doing, and it's something that the people want you to come to do. So that's why I still do it, and that's what the promoters. That's why they put these. I think what Randy referred to as the old timers or whatever that is. That's why these guys are on independent shows. They're on there to help to be a name, to help draw some fans to come to see these young guys. And everybody knows that. But I think that the problem that Rip and Randy are talking about is what the young guys think they need to do to get noticed. It's what the young guys do in these matches that bothers guys that have been in the business for a while. The young guys, like they said, they have a tendency to go out there and try to squeeze in every single move that they know, every dive, every flip, every flop, everything that they can put in one 15-minute match. And so in order to do that, you can't, if you're going to put all those moves in, you're not going to have time to sell anything. You're not going to have time to, it's just got to be boom, one move after another until the match is over, until you've run out of time. So that is not the way wrestling became what it is today. That is not what I think veterans look at and say that's just not the way the business is supposed to be. It's really not that entertaining to fans, and I think that's Rip, and I think that's Randy's point that they're trying to make there. And I don't know how you change. I don't know how you get back to the way it was. I don't know if you're going to be able to tell these young guys, hey, this is not. You need to go out there and you need to paint a picture. You need to tell a story. You don't need to show off every flip and flop and every dive and every move that you know in one match. That's just that's not what wrestling is supposed to be about. So I mean when I listen to this and I understand that it's generated a lot of controversy one way or the other. Hey, like I said, that's Rip's opinion. That's Randy's opinion. I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. Well, no, I will say that they are right in a sense, but I don't think that it's the fault of, I don't think that you can knock independent wrestling in the process of what independent wrestling has become. It's not the fault of indie shows. I think there always need to be indie shows because that's where new talent is going to get in the business from. So I'll just listen and see where this all goes. That's my 2 cents on it. And I'll see somebody up in Jackson, Tennessee, and I'll see it Stranglehold. What did I say it was? Stranglehold Championship Wrestling. I'll be out there plugging away, flipping and flopping, and take it. And I'll always remember this. And I know Randy's talking about money. And one of the things Jackie Fargo told me a long time ago in this business, and fortunately I adhered to. It's not what you make; it's what you save. So keep that in mind, young guys.
And also, I'm looking at Rip Rogers. I'm scrolling through his tweets right now, and I know a lot of people are taking shots at him, and he's responding. I'm not going to repeat because, like I said, it's a lot of swear words. And I already said one today, so I can't do I think we're good for a one. But he tweeted an hour ago, and he goes, if you're afraid of heat in this business, you're in the wrong effing business. If you all like each other, that means you're no threat at all. Pro wrestling is survival.
Yeah, explain that to me, or because I don't know what that means.
If you and Terry Funk, were having their feud, and you went home on Twitter and said, "Hey Terry, great match," when he's the bad guy and you're the good guy, how would that look? And that's what guys do nowadays because they thank the opponent, and they're all friends.
Well, now you know what, and that's because that's what. And I think that's what Rip Rogers and Randy Orton, and I will agree at. That's the sad state that the business has evolved into, in the fact that the old word. There's no kayfabe anymore. There's hey, and I've been guilty of sitting here and telling you how great Andy Kaufman was when we were going at each other. Everybody despised this guy and they hated him and they thought I hated him too. But and nowadays it's been, the cat's out of the bag. I don't think you can put the genie back in the bottle. I think that it's gone too far now to where you can't. I don't know if you can really knock guys because they think that's the thing to do when they have a good match with somebody. I don't see that much harm in praising a fellow performer. I mean, hey, football players do it, baseball players do it. The basketball players do it. They don't mind telling you how good an opposing player is. So I don't really see the harm in telling somebody that your opponent at a wrestling match is a good performer.